All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is March 29th, 2016. This is a regular meeting of the Canfield Township Board of Trustees, and it is 7 o'clock p.m. I'll remind everyone to turn off your cell phones or place them on vibrate. If everyone would please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll dispense with public presentation this evening as we have no visitors. And if the fiscal officer would please call the roll.
Mr. Pulaski?
Present.
Ms. Cartwright?
Present.
And Mr. Governor?
Mr. Governor is here. And in regards to the minutes, is there any corrections to the meeting minutes of February 3rd, February 9th, February 10th, February 23rd, and March 3rd, 2016?
They're there for your signatures.
As long as all the corrections have been made, I have no objections.
I would agree, so I'll move to accept the minutes as presented. Moving on, the Administrator Road Superintendent report. Mr. Rogers. Amanda's here. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Is there any questions for Mr. Rogers? Hearing none, Mr. Rogers, did you have anything you'd like to present to the board?
The only thing I'd like the board to do is allow me to send a letter to the Mahoning County Engineer's Office for them to be able to conduct the construction administration and inspection for the Pebble Beach project.
All right, I think I need just a little more detail on that.
Okay, speaking with ODOT District 4 office on, I believe it was last week, it was explained to me that the township is not eligible as a whole to do the inspection work. I found this out after I'd taken the 12 module tests and started filling out the application. They wanted to know how many ODOT projects the township has done. We haven't done any ODOT projects because we don't have any ODOT roads that we were responsible for.
Right.
Now, I'm actually eligible because of my background and the years that I've done inspection work. I've done several ODOT projects, but that doesn't count. He said it's the township itself. So I spoke with Mr. Mike Stepetich with the county, and they said that they've actually helped out townships before in this capacity. They said that they will work within our limits of our budget for that project. They won't charge us any more than what we had allocated towards that part of the project. So they just need a letter asking the county engineer to, perform these duties as far as that project goes.
Do you need a resolution or do you just need a letter?
It just needs to be a letter, that's all.
I don't see a problem with it. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about
I
it.
think we should go ahead with the letter, get the management
Yep.
started.
Fine with the letter. I was told by ODOT that he still had to have a person in reasonable charge for the project, which I'm qualified for that because I took the 12 module test and passed each one of the sections. So that way later on down the road, in case someone wants to audit, the state wants to come in and audit that project, they can come to me and ask me questions rather than going back and forth through the county.
Do you have the letter ready for their signature?
It just has to be for me, that's it.
Just from you?
That's it.
And
Please.
if I might, if we can change the subject, I would ask that you speak with the fire chief at your convenience. At the fire board last night, a few of the firefighters had brought up that on Neserly Road, as the truck is exiting, there is a soft spot on the road. They've apparently have notified the county, but we need to follow up with them. They're concerned about one of the engines going off because the road is breaking down. So
Is it on the edge of pavement, over by the ditch?
Yep.
Okay.
So please, we want to prevent any damage to the equipment if you can follow up with them on that, and then with the county to make sure that that's taken care of.
I'll call the county and have them come up, meet me out there, and then I'll
Great.
talk to the fire chief and find out exactly where the spot's at.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anything else in regards to the administrative road superintendent's report? That would also include public works and zoning at this time. Okay, very good, thank you. Fiscal officer, your
Okay,
financial report, please.
I will start with the electronic payments, 84-2016. Actually, it's 82, but we've got a couple that are done in the background and goes through 102-2016. And then starting with warrant number 10973 through 11018 for a total of 48,000. And you know what? I think we had that changed, I'm sorry. Let's do that again. It starts with 10973 through 11018. Electronics 82 through 113-2016. And the total is 53,590 and 50 cents. Then we've got blanket certificates, starting with blanket certificate number 37-2016 for 4,000, and then purchase orders 08 through 13 for a total of $50,421.62. I also have 3 letters. The first one is from the War Museum, and they're asking for a donation of 1,000. Canfield 4th of July Committee, and they're asking for a donation of 5,000. And then First Night Canfield, and they're asking for a donation of 8,500 toward their event. And that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone wants to see the letters, they're here for your viewing.
Carmen, just a quick question, if I might, Mr. Chairman. As it relates to our revenue sources,
Yes.
on the rentals and leases,
Yes.
what is that covering?
That so far is the rental for the that farmer to farm the land.
Oh, okay, out at the park, the community park, got you. Okay.
Yes. You'll notice also that we've got some estate tax that came in.
Yes.
If you'll look at the bottom where it says year to date, you'll see we're at 30%. That's mainly because we got that estate money. But we're supposed to be roughly at 25%. You'll notice that the next line, which is your motor vehicle, is at 25%. We just finished out our quarter. Gasoline tax is at 20%. But again, that's one fund that gets some decent money throughout the summer. If you drop down to the fire districts, it's 26%, and that's rare because we haven't received our tax money yet. It'll hit 50% as soon as we get the final check from the county. The road department's at 16%. That's because we haven't been transferring funds from the general fund as yet. Zoning is at almost 20%, but again, they're just starting to put out the permits, so that'll change. So at the end, we're at 17%. So we're a little below, but that's mainly because we've got a lot of large projects and they haven't started to filter through yet.
Thank you.
Anything else for the fiscal officer? Okay, we're going to move on to all business. And one thing that we've been discussing within the township this year is to start a catch basin repair and or replace program. And we budgeted money for it this year. And we've been provided a list through Mr. Rogers and the Public Works Department of which catch basins may be most in need of replacement. There's 8 on the list, and I guess at this point what we're looking to do is determine if it's okay with the board to go ahead and put those out for bid for replacement. These are the ones that seem to be needing replaced rather than repaired. So I'm looking for comments from the board. Yeah.
Is there any more that need to be replaced? I mean, I know there's more, but I mean, if you know,
Currently, these ones are our worst ones.
Based on the amount of money that we budgeted this year, which is around $25,000, we're trying to stay within our budget and at least get started with this program. So these were the ones that were identified as the ones most in need.
I would think that we should get a price on the replacement and repair of these and see where it falls within our budget. And if we can do it, or if we have to take something off the list, or if we could add something to the list perhaps.
I would agree.
I believe because that's considered a road project, it has to be put out for bid.
Yes, it does. I think she's right.
Under 50. You need 3 quotes under 50. If you're over 50, then you have to go out for public bid.
But we still need 3 on it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to give Mr. Rogers clear direction that we're looking to get bids on these and keep moving on
You're
this.
feeling strongly that it needs more than that, Carmen?
I'm pretty sure that when you say road,
I'll
it
check.
requires it.
Okay.
There are Ohio Revised Codes all over the place talking about advertising and all kinds of amounts, but I'm pretty sure that the word road requires that to be advertised.
All right, well, we can double check that either way. We do want to put it out for bid and get moving on that.
There has been some changes and it happened toward the end of 2015 on advertising. And I did run a whole list of them for you, and I left it out on my printer, so I'm going to get it out to you. I'll probably fax it over or email it to you.
Okay.
But there's been some changes now, since we have a website, there's been some big changes.
All right, the next item is in regard to paving projects for 2016. Again, Mr. Rogers, in cooperation with the Public Works Department, has come up with a list based on our budget. And again, looking for direction from the board at this point. Please.
I do have a concern looking at the list, and my concern is that we're not including Gibson, which I think by far is the worst, and at least to do the upper portion of Gibson, I think we need to get some money factored in there, since this list is showing 175,000 plus, and we only have a budget of 190 to work with.
I've had the Public Works guys go out and measure the worst part of the upper end, and it works out to be 1,500 feet. And that basically puts a stop right where we had left 4 years ago when we paved. We were thinking about just doing like a leveling course, 1 inch. That worked out to be approximately 15,000. So if you had 15,000 to what they're estimating at 175, you're still within the 190.
We'll be a little over 190.
Correct.
And I think we have to, and again, I think we just have to be very cautious, because we still are over budget this year. So I think that we need to be below the 190 figure. And I know once we bid it out with Boardman, perhaps we'll come in at less. But if we don't, I think we need to be prepared to take a hard look at that and to scale back our program.
But the numbers that were generated here were based off $75 per ton.
Right.
The county's program, it came in at $58 a ton, but you have to realize those are long, straight roads. They're not jumping around, so last year came in at $72.50, so we figured 75 wasn't a bad price to do our estimate, original estimate. I can actually call some of the asphalt vendors and find out what a better number might be, and I can rework the numbers and email the board. But the reason this went out now, we just wanted you to go out and drive the roads and get your thoughts, so maybe you could see what we saw when we actually drove the roads and talked about them.
I have not done all the roads. I've done a couple of them since I was out of town last week. I only hit a couple of them, but obviously Steeplechase is in dire need of being done.
Yes, it is.
So, and I don't have a problem with finishing the rest this week if we can revisit that.
That's fine. The boardman just said as soon as we get our list put together, they asked that I get it over to them. Now,
Okay.
it won't go out for bid. They're going to open the bids on July 1st. So, with their funding the way they have it coming in, so.
Oh, that's right, because they're OPWC.
Correct. So I would just like to get ours done, get it over to them, then they can take care of it from there.
Yeah, we just wanted to get this in front of the board's attention. Yeah, I think all of our hope is that it's going to be way under this 175 number. I think we've estimated high, so we'll hope for the best. Okay. Any other questions on paving, Joe?
I looked at the list. I mean, some of these streets over 20 years or around 20 years or so haven't been paved. So, I mean,
It's time.
yeah, big kudos to the road department for keeping them up for as long as they have. So.
All right, well, that, on the heels of paving, I guess that would lead us into, we've had some discussions during our budget meetings in regards to Gibson Road. And, you know, taking the first steps towards getting grant money to get this road fixed properly. We understand that this year we may have, you know, the possibility of skim coating it to get us through the next year or two. During our budget meetings, we discussed the possibility of getting what is that called, Keith? The official terminology of that report that was done years ago?
Engineers,
An engineer's report that was done about 10 years ago.
Right, the engineer that I was in contact with is on vacation this week. I didn't hear back from him last week when I had called him. So the best I can do is wait till the beginning of next week and give him a call.
But do you think that it's going to be necessary to have this updated and to get current numbers, yes?
Well, they did enough, we actually put that out with 3 different engineers back in 2014. And we were comparing those numbers, but the other 2 obviously had to come up with the drawings, and the 3rd engineer actually had the drawings, so that's why his pricing came in a little bit better than everybody else's. So I can revisit a couple of the other engineers if you like, see if they want to come up with some better numbers and present them at the next meeting.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're on track to take this in steps so that we can hopefully get Gibson done here. Right now, we're looking at, what, 2018 of actually having this done.
Well, that's when we would
That would
present
be-
it.
That would be, yeah, presented to
It would be
OPWC.
presented in OPWC in 2018, so we
Wait,
wouldn't
we
be
couldn't
funded.
present it in 2017?
We're presenting, 2016 is this year,
2017 is,
Yeah,
2017,
would be
so
for
it'd be 2018.
correct.
Right.
so funding wouldn't start until July
July
1st of
2018.
2019.
No, if you submit it,
18.
yeah, if you submit it in
Right.
17,
18, it'd be in
July
18.
Right.
18, yes,
Exactly.
Okay.
At least that's the hope here, that's the plan.
right.
To make sure this is all updated, hopefully apply next year for OPWC, correct?
Phase 1.
Phase 1, or however
Phase
many
one.
phases we have to do, correct?
I'm thinking at least 3. This is over almost 3.7 million.
3.2 and change.
Okay.
This list was showing 3.67.
every year that goes by, the price goes up.
It is, and it's going to increase, you're right. I would think it's going to be a minimum of 3 phases. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
I'm thinking maybe 4.
You're thinking 4? Okay.
Yeah. Just seeing how the funding's been coming in through OPWC, and the regional points that we would get. I think that's where that's gonna be our hiccup right there.
It's going to be our biggest one because that's the largest number.
Correct. I think we could get a good traffic count.
Oh, I think the traffic count will be great. I just think that the regional points is the, you are correct, Mr. Rogers.
All right, well, I just want to make sure that we're taking this in steps and it's, you know, stays on our plate, so thank you. Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove. I believe that I sent out to everybody the information from our attorney addressing a possible JED with Walnut Grove. I have spoken with Mr. Conti several times, as well as Attorney Matthews. There's a couple of ways we can go with this. Speaking with Attorney Matthews, he thought we as a board should have a discussion to see if we want to go forward with this project. And also, he advised that Canfield Township should be the facilitator of the program. In speaking with Mr. Conti, obviously Boardman Township or Poland would be a good fit to try to do a JED with for this project. However, he and I spoke again today and thought it might be worth our while to have another discussion with Canfield City.
Why Poland? You don't have to get into all the.
Yeah. They just thought that if Boardman didn't go with it, then we,
Okay.
because of the JED structure, we could still
Okay.
try with Poland. So my thought process is, if the board agrees, I would like to sit down again with perhaps the mayor of the city of Canfield and the president of city council, Mr. Dragic, and just revisit the thought of perhaps them participating in a JED with us for this particular project. From what Mr. Matthews said, we might even be able to extend the existing JED that we have. So
I was going to say, we're kind of already
yeah,
going that way.
exactly. So if the city would be willing to have conversation, and if we could get them interested in perhaps going forward with us, that might be the best first strategy. If not, then we need to decide. I would assume that our second stage approach would be with Boardman Township.
And where would the ABC Water District fall into that?
Well, until
I know that's not ready to bust loose yet.
that's the problem. And I think Mr. Rogers could speak more to that since he is our representative to the ABC Water District, but I'm not sure that the district is in a position at this particular point in time to go forward with that unless there's something new on that horizon.
I won't know until the 31st.
Okay.
That's our next
Well,
meeting at 3
Okay,
o'clock.
and that could be a possibility. If it turns out that ABC is a good fit, then obviously that would be the easiest way for us to proceed since we're a member of that district.
But why aren't those Mahoning County lines? They're not Boardman lines, are they?
You know, there's also another option where an economic development grant could be available. I did some research on who had pulled grants before, where they were actually going to run that down. Crossing the turnpike was a little hiccup because you have a bunch of hoops you have to jump through there. But they actually had an economic development grant set up. The Lindy Corporation, they were on board.
Yes.
And they had OPWC, and then they had something through the Ohio EPA. So they had 3 sources of income.
And Mr. Conti and I discussed that yesterday, as a matter of
Right.
fact, or
Now,
today.
Depending upon how many employees that the Walnut Grove is going to job creation, we could also try to get a hold of Lindy and see if they would be interested again. But then, I know it's a long shot, but South Range Schools, I know they were looking to get water too, because they had approached the ABC Water District a year ago, because they seem to be having problems with their water wells.
Apparently they've drilled wells, though. They were happy
They
with
keep
them.
failing.
Well, we had that
That's-
conversation too, but apparently at this time they weren't, but we can always revisit that as well.
Right.
I think there's a couple of different avenues that we can go, but I think that we need to start having conversation and looking at different methods of doing it and making sure that Jim or Attorney Matthews is involved as we go through so that he can guide us. But he truly believes that we should be a facilitator of this.
Well, I think that, as a board and as Canfield Township, we certainly would welcome Walnut Grove. And if, I don't have a problem communicating with the city to see if that's a possibility, at least have that on the table and some of these other options. So I have no problem with that. Joe?
No problem whatsoever.
Okay, then I'll work with Mr. Rogers as well as it relates to ABC so that if that's our easier route, we can also incorporate that. And we probably could incorporate more than one entity to do it,
Right.
because one would be coming from one direction, the other would be coming from the other direction, and that way we could actually provide service, water and sanitary to 2 different aspects of our community.
Correct.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. The Township Park. As far as an advisory board, there's been at least talk in my own mind about the possibility of getting together, perhaps a few people from the community, create a board. We can, of course, set the parameters of that board and not lose control of what's going on at the park. It'd be simply just an advisory board. And I wanted to, before we talk about some of the other things in regards to the park, perhaps that advisory board could be part of those things. I wanted to get final input from the board, what you guys thought of that, if you think that's a good idea, if you think we can handle it and we don't need that. Or...
We've talked about an advisory board for many years and how they would play a role in it. And I think that getting some additional community involvement in the park is a great idea. I just think that we have to set some parameters so we make sure that we don't get any particular concentration of one group. But I think that perhaps we need to talk about the structure of it and maybe involve a representative from some of our different service groups within the community and some of our different athletic groups within the community to formulate the board.
Oh, yeah, plug from all aspects, I think that you know.
And I guess
it's
trying to
just get
understand the
ideas.
size of the
Yeah.
board, I have no concept of what size that board should be, and maybe we need to talk to the group over in Boardman Township, because they've done an awfully good job with their park over there. Perhaps they can give us a little bit of guidance.
Mhm. Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that the board was in favor of that before, you know, and I don't have a problem spearheading that, if that's the direction we want to go.
Sure. I heard a lot of residents, different ideas when I knocked on their doors about Township Park, so yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a great idea.
Because there's a couple things at the park right now that may, you know, that advisory board may help us with. So we can put that out to them, as we don't need any of those urgently right now. There is one thing, though, however, I would like to discuss, and that's regards to over last fall, we put some fence up along the back of that pavilion, and we have a lot of other split rail fence that can be placed aesthetically, I believe, throughout the park. I don't know if the board wants to take time and talk about that at the next meeting. You can think about it. I have pictures, aerials of the park, but and Mr. Rogers and I discussed maybe a few areas where some fence would, you know, make the park look a little nicer, and entrances and stuff.
Probably not a bad
And we have a lot of
idea, but
fence.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't get somebody on the park board who is into landscaping and could give us some direction in that area.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Instead of us going ahead and maybe putting it someplace other than the entrances, which I think is a great idea. We had talked about that previously too, dressing up those. And it also will draw attention to the entrances, the entrance point.
Yes.
Because it is a little difficult. People do tend to miss it.
Mhm.
So I think that perhaps we could do that quickly, because I think that would work well. And I'm sure our gentleman from the road department could do that for us.
You mean put the fence in?
Mhm.
I don't know if they would be the best at that, and we can discuss that
Oh,
with
okay.
them, but
Oh, that's right. We had somebody else do
Yeah.
the fence.
Right, the gentleman.
I apologize,
the
that's
gentleman that
right.
put in the 250 feet
That's
was by
right.
far the cheapest.
Okay,
Then he was actually the original one who put the fence in for the person that donated it to us.
donated it to us.
so perhaps we can do a drawing on here, come with a couple ideas to the board, maybe perhaps at the next meeting,
That would
to
be
give
great.
direction to that, and in the meantime, work on the advisory board. Okay?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, very good. I guess-
Before we
yes.
move on
Yes.
from old business,
Yes.
at the fire board meeting last evening, we took a look at the final drawing for Station 3, and that will be going out to bid, probably by April 6th, April 10th. So I thought our board might like to see
Yeah.
what Station 3 is now going to look like on Herbert Road.
Sure.
So I will pass that down, so everybody can take a look at that. It is, it will be state-of-the-art.
They can come in and drive right through there? Is that right?
Well, actually, and I'm sorry, I wrote all over this one, but as you can see, there will be multiple bays here, and they will be able to go through, but we will eventually have 2 engines on each side, and we have a partial bay here.
I see.
But the apparatus will be here.
That's a fine looking building.
It is, and it is, obviously, there's a lot of thought. There is a group out of New York whose specialty is in just designing fire stations, and that is who has helped with this, as well as a local architect, so that every bit of space is being used most efficiently as they can.
So is this a larger
This
than
will be-
normal training area? Is it-
No, actually, it's a pretty standard training area, because we have training on a regular basis at the monthly training for our guys, and a lot of times they find themselves in very closed quarters trying to do things. So this is a typical classroom, and this is the standard sizes. So it'll also be used for training of other purposes with other departments throughout the county.
Very good. Is there a projected groundbreaking date?
Not until we get the bids in and we take a look, but, you know, at this point in time, as you know, we'll put the bids out in April. We'll have 21 days, and then there will be the bid opening, and then a construction start date will be set.
So, that's good.
Very nice, thank you. That's exciting.
It is very exciting. And if you'd like to see as well, we'll have it up here later.
Okay, anything else under old business? Okay, we're going to move on to new business here, and we'll start with resolutions, warrants, and electronic payments. I'll move to approve warrants 10973 through 11018, electronic payments 82-2016 through 113-2016 as general and payroll obligations of the township in the amount of $53,590.50.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. Blanket certificate and purchase orders. I'll move to approve blanket certificate BC-37-2016 for $4,000 and purchase order PO 08-2016 through PO-13-2016 to encumber funds of the township for a total of $50,421.62.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. You want to take one, Marie?
Sure.
You good?
I'll move, oh, you want to do the title first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Township's Community Park Maintenance Contract.
I'll move to accept the best low qualified bid for the Township Community Park lawn mowing maintenance from Easton Lawn Service for the area included in bid package noted as area number 1 located on the south side of Herbert Road at a cost not to exceed $6,450, which is 30 cuts at $215 per cut. This funding will come from the general fund, contracted park services line.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I do want to advise the board that we now have only $2,000 in that line after we cut back on the budget.
You mean after this is allocated?
After the
After
next
this.
2 are allocated, you'll only have $2,000 left.
I think that's all that's going to come out
Out
of
of
there.
there.
So, noted, thank you.
Right.
Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. Township's Community Park Fertilization Contract.
I'll move to accept the best low qualified bid for the fertilization maintenance from Todd's Enviroscapes Inc. for $440 per treatment for the Township Community Park located on the south side of Herbert Road for the next year, 2016. The fertilization contract reads 3 applications at $440 each for a total not to exceed $1,320. The funding for this will come from the general fund contracted park services line.
I'll second that. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. Fall protection. I'll move to accept the bid from Playworld Mid-States for the fall protection safety surface mulch at a cost of $1,891 for 100 cubic yards of material for the Township Community Park playground area. The funding for this will come from the Open Space Fund.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. A phone system.
I'll move to accept the best low qualified bid from Perigee Business Technologies for the purchase and installation of a new phone system for the Township Hall offices at a cost not to exceed $5,200. The funding for this will come from the general fund, small tools and minor equipment line.
Second.
A new phone system is really necessary in the office as the current phone system is outdated and definitely is not working properly.
Agreed.
And there has been much research that has been done to bring us to this phone system at this time.
Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes. And street sweeping. Joe, you want to take that?
I'll move to accept the best low qualified bid from Casey's Clean Sweep LLC to have all township maintained roads swept and debris removed at a cost of $5,250. The funding for this will come from the Permissive Road Fund.
I'll second.
Says-
Discussion.
the discussion, it has been about 10 years since the roads have been swept and the majority of roads are in need. I agree.
That's the truth.
And gentlemen, I know that we had this discussion during our budgeting session. However, since we're still over budget, I'm questioning whether we should delay this until we can get our budget more in line and see if this is one of the items that we need to revisit or not. And I understand that this helps with our roads and with our catch basins and that, but I am concerned about our budget.
Well, we're definitely all concerned about the budget. Yeah, this was something we definitely discussed. You know, like I said, it's been 10 years since they've been done. Trying to preserve some of our
2010.
catch basins.
Actually, we did it in 2010.
Oh, I was advised by the public works.
Yeah, no, we
Department
actually
about
did
10
it. We
years.
outsourced it in 2010.
Oh, it was
But,
done in 2010?
yes, but never, it does need to be done. I'm not disputing the fact that that it should be done. I'm just, again, concerned that we haven't brought our budget into line yet. And I'm wondering if this isn't one of the items we should just revisit, even though it's a smaller item on our list. And I don't know how the fiscal officer feels about it at this point, but I guess we should let her weigh in as well.
I'm concerned. I really think that we need to get the budget in line. And right now, we don't know what the paving program is going to come in at. And until we know that and what Gibson Road is going to do, we need to start watching where we're spending our money.
I don't have a problem delaying this till we know how much, you know, our paving's going to be. I don't have a problem with that.
Generally, the best time to sweep streets is right after winter.
Right.
That's when you do it. You don't wait until the fall. But right now, I'm very concerned because of what we're facing.
Now, having campaigned and walked down many of these streets, even in the fall, I mean, there was down Pheasant Run, there was, I mean, rocks and debris everywhere. I feel like even if we put this off, we're going to approve it probably anyways, just in my opinion that it needs to be done. So I don't see what the point is waiting. Again, we do have some projects that aren't exactly needed for Township Hall that, you know, this could be used for instead of that. So
Those two are separate funds, and you don't intermix the general fund expenditures with road fund expenditures unless you're transferring the money to a road fund. So what we're doing, if we do anything at the Township Hall, that would be totally separate from what we would do with a road fund.
Well, I would agree that the best time to do it is now, you know, right after winter. I do also agree that I think we really do need to do it and want to do it. But I also understand in regards to the budget, and if we wait to find out what the paving's going to be, that's going to be we're probably 6-8 weeks out before we know exactly what that's going to be.
But again, even though we say that now's the best time of doing the roads, in the fall, we still have the issue with the leaves and keeping those out of our storm sewers and catch basins is a positive as well. So sweeping at any time, I think, even though now is probably the more advisable, I would just feel better if we knew the money was available and that we weren't having to cut back on something else. It is a road fund issue.
Okay, well, then I guess is there any other discussion on this? Then we'll take it to a vote and see where it goes. So there was a second, correct?
Yes, we have a
There is a
second.
second.
You seconded. Mr. Pulaski,
yes.
Ms. Cartwright,
No.
Mr. Governor.
This is a tough one. I'll say no this time.
The motion fails.
But as soon as we find out how much the paving's gonna cost, And even if it's in the fall, and this
I
is something
agree.
that really needs to be done.
I
think
agree,
we all
if our
with
paving
that.
comes in and if we decide not to do anything else with that fund, then I would agree.
All right.
We should also find out if we do wait till later in the year and there are leaves on the ground, this could also be a possible recycling project. The recycling fund may be able to pay for this. If leaves are on the ground, we need to look into it. It's a possibility.
Probably leaves on the ground now. I mean, people not picking up their leaves.
All right.
I just feel like we're going to do it later in the year anyway, so we might as well just do it now. But, so.
All right, next meeting dates. We had talked about April, or we
12th.
haven't talked about it yet, but
Well, no,
the
we-
possibility of April 12th would be our next regular meeting.
However,
There is a,
state auditor's fraud class being conducted at Mahoning County Career and Technical Center that when we were at the auditors, they are encouraging all trustees, fiscal officers, and administrators to attend. It just happens that it's going to be on our next meeting evening, and it's going to be from 5 to 7 in Mahoning County. Most of the other ones are during the day, but ours, for some reason, is going to be during our meeting time. So
so can we either maybe talk about, can we delay our meeting a half
Starting
hour?
At 8 o'clock.
Or at 7:30 maybe?
7:30.
Or do you want to consider changing the date? I don't know.
I don't know, I guess that's up to all of us and how we feel about doing that.
I mean,
I don't have a problem.
I'm okay with delaying this.
I don't-
mean, but-
7:30 works for me.
I don't know what you think about that.
That'll work for me if you want to just reschedule and go at 7:30
That's
and
okay
hope
with
that
me.
it doesn't go over.
Well, we just
Yeah.
have to, I'm sure we'll be frauded out by then, after 2 hours of that. They'll probably be done by then, I would think.
Will it be sufficient to advertise it in our billboard out in the front, or?
Billboard website.
I would think we should send a notice to the Vindicator, not in the legal notices, but in their meeting notices. That should suffice, I would think.
Yeah, we're starting at 7:30
30 as
instead of 7
opposed.
PM on April 12th.
And then I would encourage everybody to go to the state auditor's site and sign up for the class from 5 to 7.
And then in April, our other regularly scheduled meeting will be April 26th at 7 PM. Does the board have at this time, there's no need for special meetings for any reason
Not that I
that
can
I'm
think of.
aware of? Okay.
Keep in mind that we have a meeting already set for the 6th.
Correct.
Okay.
We have, on
For?
April 6th, that's going to be with employees.
Employees for the policies and procedures.
That does not need to be advertised, correct? Because that's during business hours and only one trustee is attending?
No, the trustees.
I think the trustees are gonna be here.
All
Yes.
trustees will be here?
I think we need to advertise it. It will be
April again, what date?
the 6th. It's Wednesday, April the 6th. And it's at noon.
High noon. And that meeting is strictly for review of policies and procedures. Okay,
And I guess the other question is do we want to set up the system where we project that day onto the screen, the policies and procedures, or do we want to make hard copies? Because that's a pretty thick document.
Projecting sounds great.
I don't know, you can,
We need to figure that out before the meeting.
one or the other.
You know, if we have a couple of copies
We
in
may not
the
be going,
binders.
we may not be
but-
going through that entire booklet though.
Well, what we're gonna try to do is just, since these are the union folks, what we're gonna do is to only address those sections that pertain to them.
Mhm.
But still, there's a lot of paper involved.
Yeah, we want to save some trees.
Yeah, I would like to save some trees, so
Alright,
if
well,
we
I'm
could
sure we
set it
can-
up that day and have it electronically,
The one that she highlights,
yeah.
the one that Cindy
The
highlights
one
should
that
be the one should be on
Cindy
the
and I are gonna
projector.
work on that as soon as we get through the dinner meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, next thing is an executive session we need to go into. So in accordance with ORC 121.22, I'll move to adjourn into executive session at
7:45.
7:45 PM to discuss the employment of a public employees and to prepare for bargaining negotiations.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. Pulaski?
Yes.
Ms. Cartwright?
Yes.
Mr. Governor?
Yes.